This is Roger Simon.
And Lionel Chetwynd.
And we're back with Poliwood to discuss the mega hit civil rights tearjerker, The Help, set back in the early 60s in Jackson, Mississippi. It's a story, for those few people left who haven't seen it, of a young woman in the South, white woman, who thinks that the family maids of their various families are being oppressed, which they were, and decides to write a book about it.
She's actually in search of a career. This is Emma Stone.
Oh, yes.
And she feels that the way that she can sell it, because the people in New York really want to make the trouble, that if she could tear the cover off all the terrible things that are happening to the Help, so she has her own, although she is the only white person in the film that kind of gets any redemption.
Now, let me ask you a question. This movie is a tremendous hit right now, 150 million in the box office already, and growing with legs. What do you think accounts for it, since neither of us think it's a terrific film?
Well, it's not a terrific film. First of all, it's easy to understand. The stereotypes are very familiar. They've become, over time, these are modern stereotypes. There's the first black maid who has got a halo. There's her friend who is that modern stereotype, which is so irritating to me. The black woman with attitude, whether it's Wanda Sykes or whoever. I got two, you know. They're all very predictable. They're all very simple. But I think I make some connection with it, okay, that they are using the story of the civil rights. I want to ask you about that because you were there. I think the appeal of the $150 million appeal is somehow connected to the same reason Obama was elected president.
In a way, it's also,
it's a need for people to sort out who we were, to get by it, and also I think going to The Help, that film, and saying I loved it is, and I voted for Obama, and I drive a Prius.
Right.
You know, it's that great line.
It's all about feeling good about yourself. Now, look, you asked me about the civil rights movement because I was there, and I wasn't in. This is Mississippi in '62, '63, Medgar Evers, JFK. I was in South Carolina in '66. A little bit different, because not so much because South Carolina, both deep South, but because Black Power was already starting to appear in '66 with Stokely Carmichael.
And that would change this world,
because here we have the perfect time when black people were badly oppressed, which they were. Jim Crow was horrible. Everybody agreed. That's why we all went down there. And this is a form of nostalgia for that period when we could all see life simply. And good and evil were very clear. And I think, of course, that makes for a kind of cheesy movie, which it is. On the other hand, I think that's why this has become this great weeper. And then you go, as I did, to the Hollywood ArcLight, very trendy theater here, and there's not a dry eye in the house, even though it's a cornball flick.
Well, look, you know, I mean, it's very interesting, moral clarity. But then with time, you see the moral history and retelling should be able to dig behind the moral clarity and find the complications of it.
Yeah, as an artist,
for example,
yes.
If I made a film about Nazis and Jews that was this unnuanced, to use a favorite word of the left, it would be laughed out of the theaters.
Well, I don't know. A little bit. I mean, I hate to say this, but Schindler's List. Schindler's List is pretty corny stuff.
Yeah, but the Germans are you have to have your Horst Buchholz character, you know, from A Bridge Too Far. That's a bad comparison. I don't necessarily want to make that comparison. I think though that there is this constant need on the part of people. My favorite television line in the last 5 years came from The New Adventures of Old Christine, which he says, I can't be a racist, I drive a Prius, which is one of my favorite lines. There's this constant need to collect credentials to prove that you're not a racist. And by the way, I believe that was a significant factor in the election of Barack Obama.
Of course it was. In fact, being a racist is the scarlet letter of our time. You just don't want to be called a racist under any circumstances. However, what's kind of interesting in this movie is so comfortable for the audience that it gives them a get-out-of-jail-free pass, totally on everything, because it's so corny and so overdrawn. There isn't a black person there not wearing a halo. You expect them to float up and go like this.
So here's the thing. Okay, I saw it. I also saw it at ArcLight. I saw it at the Sherman Oaks Gallery ArcLight. Okay, audience probably 80% women, which was important.
It's a chick flick.
Well, it's a chick flick, and of course they were the ones that purchased the book and gave her the basis. So I'm watching the film, and I'm there with my friend Alan Gansberg, and I'm thinking, and Gloria, and I'm thinking, yeah, it's okay. It's one of those things you come on, I want those 2 hours of my life back again. It wasn't that at all. It was okay. I watched it. It's interesting. But as I looked around at the other people with their teary eyes as we left the theater, and their sense of fulfillment, be it real or imagined, I had this guilt feeling that I didn't really like the film that much. I mean, it was okay, it was shot okay, one of the finest casts I've ever seen. But when I was very much looking forward to seeing Jessica Chastain, because we had just come from The Dead, right? Where she's unbelievable. I mean, the texture of that woman, the depth of her ability as an artist is extraordinary. And here she's completely wasted. I think that that's the significant thing.
Well, the depressing...
So single-minded, they waste a beautiful cast.
Yeah, they did, but there's a depressing part of that, and that is that this movie is going to be wildly more successful than that. And it tells us something about the audience and the temper of the times that we're in. People are fleeing from looking at things clearly, because we're in a very, very difficult period in our history. And, you know, people are looking for a way out. And this movie gives you a way out. It gives you, oh, I'm not a racist, phoo, because I'm certainly not like those idiots in Jackson, Mississippi, 1963, who all look like they were members of the White Citizen Council.
All right, here's the thing then. Okay, so let's say that we're going through that. It was just something just occurred to me as you said that. I was thinking, well, where were the films like that in the 30s? Well, of course there were. There were the Jodes, there was no Grapes of Wrath. In fact, the serious films were very... had this moral clarity that made it easy. Then the mass stuff was Busby Berkeley and the musicals. Today it's vampire movies and Transformers. So what does that say about how we've changed over time? You know, there's no relief.
For the worse.
There's no relief. There's no relief. I wanted some relief during this film. I wanted one moment, because here's the problem with the film. It's a historical document, and you were there, and my last question to you on it. That picture is so unrelievingly desperate. I have no idea how we got from there to here.
Well, you know, I was there 3 years later than this film, and I'll tell you something. The black people I met were a lot more interesting than the characters in this movie, a lot more diverse, and the white people as well. But hey, that's human life. This movie is not really about human life. This movie is this movie is about our dream of a sort of perfected version of human life. It's really very much, ironically, a Disney movie, which it is. Yeah. In the old tradition, this is a Disney version of civil rights.
Yeah, because by the end there are little animated birds floating around, so I'm going to be fine. And anyway. Emma Stone gets to go to New York and be an author. Well, with that simple.
Anyway, I don't know what there is more to say about it. If you haven't seen it, maybe you should, because it's a cultural artifact in a certain way, like Gone with the Wind was. Not as important as that.
And I think we'll be immense at Oscar time.
Oh, yes. Anyway, this is Roger Simon.
And Lionel Chetwynd.
Next time in Poliwood.